Okay, this is a quick video on the quadratic formula. So if you don't have this page printed out, you can print it out or you can just copy the buttons down as we go. Okay, so we're going to just start up here with this very first one. Now, the quadratic formula says, let's start out by writing that down. So the quadratic formula says if an equation is written like this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then x equals opposite b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Make sure you have that. That is the rule for quadratic formula. Very important to note that it has to equal 0. It has to be a quadratic equation, and it has to be set equal to 0. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Okay, so using that, we're going to do this worksheet. Okay, so this very first one, we've got 4p squared, and I'll just delete all that stuff. Okay, so 4p squared minus 10p minus 15, and that one's already set equal to 0. So all we have to do is we have to pick out a, b, and c. So the coefficient of the p squared, the coefficient of the variable that is squared, your quadratic variable, that is your a. So a equals 4. The coefficient of p is your b. And we include that minus. We use that as a negative. That's a negative 10. Okay, and then c is your constant. It's the one with no variable. So, and again, we're going to include that minus to be a negative. So that's negative 15. Now, all we have to do is plug these into the quadratic formula. This time, p is what we have and not x. But p equals opposite of b. b is negative 10. The opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. So 10 plus or minus the square root of, now b squared, negative 10 squared minus 4. And I'm going to put a and c in parentheses because I'm substituting them in there just like I put that negative 10 in parentheses. So a is 4 and c is negative 15. Okay, and that's all over 2a. I have a catchy little song that goes with this. A is 4, so 2 times 4. All right, just to keep these things from running together, I'm going to erase all that up there. All right, now, this part underneath the square root, this part underneath the radical, the b squared minus 4ac, that's called the discriminant. So write that down. That's something that is going to help us a lot. And I ran out of room, so I'm going to have to put the A and T down here. Discriminant. Okay, discriminant. Okay, that's the discriminant. It kind of discriminates what kind of answers we're going to have. We're going to have real answers, whether we're going to have rational answers, irrational answers, imaginary answers. Anyway, it's a big deal, okay? So that's the first part we're going to find. We're going to figure out what negative 10 squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 15 is. You can plug that puppy right into your calculator. And if you do, leave, all the parentheses that I have there, everything, and it's going to work out great. I'm going to do the math. So negative 10 squared is 100. And then what I do is I look minus and negative. I'm going to put those together, and I know that I've got a plus. And then I know that I'm doing 4 times 4 times 15. Let's see, 4 times 15 is 60. 60 times 4 is 240. Okay. I think I did that right. You can check my math. Maybe I'll check my math on the calculator here real quick, just to make sure I'm not taking you down a false turn. So 16 times 15 is indeed 240. Okay, so my discriminant, that part under the root, is 100 plus 240, which is 340. All right, so I am going to go back up here and put it underneath the radical, okay? So back up here, square root is also called a radical. P equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 340 all over 8. Okay, so if I put in my calculator square root of 340, I'm going to get a decimal. I'm going to get a crazy decimal answer. So let's see, 340 square root, I get 18.43908891. It's not repeating, nothing. That tells me that 340 is, I mean, 340 is not a perfect square. Okay. So, and that the square root of 340 is irrational. So the next thing that I probably want to do is I want to see if any of my numbers from my perfect square list fit in there. Okay. So I'm going to look at, let's see, hold on. I'm going to look at 4, 9, 16. Ooh, I see one. 25 and so on. Well, since I multiplied 4 times 4 up there, maybe not. Let's see. That was for 240. So maybe not. Let's see. So let's keep going. 36. I don't know. I'm going to try the 16. I don't think it's going to work, but I'm going to try it. There may not be any of these guys that fit. I know that 9 doesn't. Oh, actually, I know 4 does. So let's go with that one to start with. So that didn't erase. Okay, here we go. So if I start out with 4, I know that 4 goes because the last 2 digits make 40, and 4 goes into 40. So 340 divided by 4 gives me 85. Okay, so I'm going to change this to be, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show you that the square root of 340, since 4 goes and it's a perfect square, I'm going to change it to be the square root of 4 times the square root of 85, because 85 times 4 is 340. I did that because I can actually take the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So now that's 2 times the square root of 85. Nothing else goes in there, nothing. So let's go back over here and put 2 times the square root of 85 instead of square root of 340. So 10 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 85 over 8. Okay, now I'm going to split this up and make it be 10 over 8. I'm just going to, 10 is over 8, and 2 times the square root of 85 is over 8. So I'm going to make that be, split that out into that binomial, 2 terms, that binomial. Okay, so I'm going to write it as 10 over 8 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 85 over 8. All right, so I know that 2 goes into 10 and 5, so I'm going to simplify that, change that to a 5 and that to a 4. I know that 2 goes into 8, so I'm going to change that to a 1 and that to a 4, because 2 goes into 8 4 times. So this gives me 5. Now I can put them back together, or I can leave them separated. I'm getting some messages here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put them all back together since they're both over 4. So I'm going to make it be 5 plus or minus the square root of 85 all over 4. And that's how you want to put an irrational answer into, when you're doing a computerized quiz or whatever. And it's just kind of a good way to leave it on your paper too. And we'll just circle it, showing that that is our answer. That is 2 different answers, but they're put together like that. Okay, that was pretty hefty little problem. Let's see what we got next. Okay, next we've got 5m squared minus 6 equals negative m. Well, this one's not in that ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, because that's not a 0. So I have to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do to get rid of that is I'm going to go plus m plus m. Okay, if you notice, there's no m term over here on the left. So I've got to squeeze it in between there. So 5m squared plus, and I'm going to go 1m minus 6 equals 0. Rewind this if you need to. Pause it, whatever you need to do. Okay, so I now can do ABC. ABC. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Don't you love my voice? Okay, so A is 5, B is 1, and C is negative 6. I'm just going to plug them in, plug them in, plug them in. M equals opposite B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So opposite B, B is 1, so the opposite of 1 is negative 1. Plus or minus square root 1 squared minus 4 times A times C. That gives me my discriminant under that radical, under that square root, all over 2A, all over 2 times 5. Okay, so I'm going to do my discriminant first. So yeah, okay. So let's see what we got. 1 squared minus, let's see, 1 squared minus, and a minus a negative out there, that's a plus. 4 times 5 is 20, times 6 is 120. Do it on your calculator. This gives me 121. Ah, that's good news. My discriminant is a perfect square. So that means I can take the square root. So negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 121 all over 10. And the square root of 121 is 11. So this gives me negative 1 plus or minus 11 over 10. Now, this time, since it's not irrational, I have to actually write 2 different numbers. So I have to write negative 1 plus 11 over 10, and I have to write negative 1 minus 11 over 10. Okay, so negative 1 plus 11 is 10. I ran out of room. So this one, I'm just going to put that answer up there. That's 10 over 10, which is 1. And then down here, negative 1 minus 11 is negative 12. We'll come over here with that one. So negative 12 over 10 simplifies to be negative 6 over 5. So that and that, those are your 2 answers. Okay, so we will continue. I have a student in my waiting room, too early, kind of throwing me off here a little bit. Okay, so this one, I'm just going to zoom right on through these. No pun intended, zoom. So you can rewind, whatever you need to do. We have to subtract 7 from both sides. So again, there's no constant to subtract it from over here. So it's just going to have to be something that goes in there. So 4n squared minus 7n minus 7 equals 0. A is 4. B is negative 7. C is negative 7. So when I plug it in, I get n equals the opposite of b, 7, plus or minus the square root of b squared is negative. And notice since it's negative, I'm always putting in parentheses. It's negative. So negative 7 squared minus 4 times a is 4. And times c is negative 7. So take that whole thing there and put it in your calculator. I'm going to finish writing. That is your discriminant. All over 2 times 4. So I'm going to come out here and I am going to solve or simplify that, that discriminant to the right. So negative 7 squared is 49. Negative, so minus a negative is going to give me a plus. 4 times 4 times 7. Let's see, what do we got? 28. 4 times 28, 3, 12, 112. Maybe I'll make sure here. 16 times 7. Yep, 112. Okay, and then when I add those two together, I get 161. So my discriminant is 161. So n equals 7 plus or minus the square root of 161 over 2 times 4 is 8. That is my answer. Nothing I can do with that. Okay, so last one. Check my time. I got time. Okay, last one right here. Now this one, I'm going to throw us for a little bit of a loop. We got to get a 0 out on the right side. And we got 8 plus a on the right side. So that means we got a minus 8 from both sides. And we got a minus a from both sides. Let me try to do this a little bit cuter. Okay, I'm going to start with minus in the a. So minus a, and I'm going to put it under here. And that's minus 1a. Minus 1a. And then I also, so let's do it one at a time. So 2a squared minus 3 minus 1 is going to give me minus 4. So minus 4a equals 8. Well, I still don't have 0 over there. So I'm going to have to subtract 8. So minus 8. So 2a squared minus, those two don't go together. They're not like terms. Notice that one's got an a, that one doesn't. So you cannot put those two together. So it's got to be minus 4a minus 8 equals 0. Now, lo and behold, I can look over here and make life a little bit easier. That's a 2, and those are both even numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that 2. I found that GCF 2 goes into everything, so I can divide everything by 2. I have to do it to every single thing. And it goes away. It actually just goes away right there. So I get a squared minus 2a minus 4 equals 0 divided by 2 is 0. Okay, we're still doing quadratic formula. So now a is 1, b is negative 2, c is negative 4. All right. I am going to plug those into my formula, and I'm going to erase so I have more room over here. If you need to see it, then you need to rewind and maybe take screenshots or whatever you need to do. Okay, so into the formula we go. So we've got opposite b, so b is negative 2, so the opposite of that is 2, plus or minus the square root of, in parentheses, because it's negative, negative 2 squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, and that's all over 2 times 1. Discriminant, put that in your calculator. You're going to get, put it down here, I'm going to get 4 plus 16, which is 20. Back up here, we got 2 plus or minus the square root of 20 over 2. And guess what? 4 is a perfect square, and it goes into 20. notice this. If I do factor tree for 20, 2 times 10, and then that's 2 times 5. Okay, so that means that the square root of 20 is actually the square root of 2 times 2 times 5. Get out there. And so this simplifies to be 2 times the square root of 5. Okay, so 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 5 over 2. And that gives me 2 goes into 2 once on both times. So that gives me 1 plus or minus the square root of 5 for that answer. If you have more questions about it, you can ask me when we meet. So hopefully, hope that helps. I will stop sharing and you let me know if you need some more help on that. Okay? Just send me a message. If you're watching this on YouTube or something and you have a question, just put it in the comments. I'll see if I can help. Bye.